All right, we're jumping right into a really tense international story today. It's got a mysterious tanker, superpowers playing a dangerous game on the high seas, and a pretty shocking twist in global oil politics.
I mean, seriously, this has all the makings of a spy thriller. You've got a rusting oil tanker, two nuclear-powered navies facing off, and a potential flashpoint right in the middle of the Atlantic. This is Russia versus America, and it's playing out right now on the open ocean.
And really, it all boils down to this one critical question. What happens when a ship that's trying to slip past sanctions runs head-on into the military might of a superpower that's dead set on enforcing them?
Okay, so let's get into the specifics of this thing. A super risky operation that just went down in the northern Atlantic, putting military forces on some serious high alert.
So here's the rundown. The U.S. military went ahead and seized an oil tanker called the Marinaris, and this wasn't in some busy shipping lane. This was way up in the northern Atlantic, right near Iceland. This whole thing is part of a new U.S. partial blockade, which isn't about stopping all shipping, but it is about specifically blocking Venezuela from exporting its oil.
And you have to hear about this tanker's journey. It was a total cat-and-mouse game. The ship, which was originally named the Bella 1, tries to load up with oil in Venezuela, then takes off with the U.S. Navy hot on its tail. Then, get this, mid-chase, it does something wild. It renames itself the Marinara, re-registers as a Russian vessel, and literally paints a Russian flag on its side. Just like that, this random ship becomes a Russian protected asset, supposedly even had a submarine escort on its way to the Russian Arctic. Spoilers, it didn't make it.
So, you're probably asking, why all this fuss over one old, apparently empty tanker? Why risk an international incident? Well, the answer lies in something called the Dark Fleet.
The Dark Fleet is pretty much what it sounds like, a kind of ghost armada. It's this massive network, over 1,000 old, often untraceable ships, and their one and only purpose is to operate in the shadows, moving sanctioned oil for countries that have been cut off from the legitimate global market.
And these ships, they all share a few key traits. They're usually pretty old. We're talking over 15 years. Their ownership is intentionally a maze, so you can't figure out who really owns them. They change the flags they fly constantly to avoid being pinned down, and of course they don't have proper insurance. They are, by their very design, perfect for breaking international law.
So this creates a really fascinating situation, right? For Russia, this fleet is an absolute economic lifeline. It's how they keep the oil money coming in despite all the Western sanctions. But for the United States, that very same fleet is a strategic vulnerability. It's a pressure point they can squeeze to hurt their rivals.
But believe it or not, this high seas chase is actually connected to an even bigger story that's unfolding back in the Western Hemisphere, and it all revolves around Venezuelan oil.
Right around the same time this chase was happening, there was this absolutely stunning announcement. The United States announced a plan to take control of a huge amount of Venezuelan oil, and the value is estimated at roughly $2 billion.
And this wasn't some vague policy memo. The U.S. president stated it directly, saying this oil would be sold and that he, personally, would control the money from that sale to, in his words, benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States.
Okay, so let's just unpack what's going on here. The deal involves somewhere between 30 and 50 million barrels of sanctioned Venezuelan oil. Now, here's the crucial part. Most of this oil was originally supposed to be sold to China, but now it's going to the U.S., and the cash is going to be under the president's direct control. The source material points out a really key question here. It's not at all clear if this is actually a sale or if it's an outright seizure.
So, as you can probably imagine, when you drop a bombshell announcement like that, and you seize a tanker out on the ocean, well, the international reaction was, let's just say, swift and angry.
China, who, remember, was supposed to get all that oil, was absolutely furious. A government spokesperson came out and called it a typical act of bullying and a serious violation of international law. They basically accused the U.S. of being a pirate.
And then you have Venezuela's response. The acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, was completely defiant. She just brushed aside the American threats and declared that her country's destiny isn't decided by any foreign power, but, quote, only by God.
So when you lay out this entire chain of events, from the sanctions to the chase to the seizure, you're left with this really striking contradiction. It's a bit of a make it make sense moment. Okay, here's the paradox. Let's just walk through it. Step 1, the U.S. hits Venezuela's oil industry with sanctions. Step 2, this effectively blocks Venezuela from selling its oil, a lot of which was supposed to go to China. Step 3, the U.S. intervenes militarily, saying it's for security reasons. And then Step 4, the U.S. takes control of the very same sanctioned oil it had just stopped from being sold.
And all of this leaves us with a really provocative final question. This chain of events seems to mark a huge escalation, right? We've gone from economic pressure to direct appropriation. So we have to ask, when sanctions start to look a lot more like seizures on the high seas, what does that mean for the rules of the game? And what on earth comes next?